Is anyone among you in trouble? Let them pray. Is anyone happy? Let them sing songs of praise. Is anyone among you sick? Let them call the elders of the church to pray over them and anoint them with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer offered in faith will make the sick person well. Because our help is in the name of the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. Our help when we are in trouble is in the name of the Lord. Our joy when we are happy is in the name of the Lord. Our healing when we are sick is in the name of the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. And so last week, I spoke about the lectionary. That 3-year cycle of readings of Old Testament and New had kind of given us something that we did not choose, I didn't pick out, but it had content that was just so appropriate and so apt for the day. And I figured, well, this week instead, I think I will preach on the lectionary. Again, the lectionary. 9 o'clock got that joke. You're killing me. Okay. The lectionary, it's not so much that it's given us something that's particularly apt or has a great connection to the day so much as it is, it's given us, I think, a very great opportunity. And that is, of the 3-year lectionary cycle, this is the one and only Sunday that gives us a reading from Esther. And Esther is a great story. I love the Esther story, and I want to take the opportunity to tell it to you. So, I love preaching on the Old Testament. It's filled with, these great and powerful stories, and there's adventure, and there's excitement and intrigue, and very powerful things in the way that the Lord has been so present with people and present throughout history. And this is one of those occasions. So, since this is the only opportunity, I want to just kind of take a few minutes, but we're going to go through the whole story, and I think there is something good for us, even today, but it's going to come this time through Esther. So, let's set the scene for a moment that the northern kingdom of Israel has long since been destroyed. The southern kingdom of Israel, they have failed to follow the Lord. They have been idolatrous. They have done the wrong thing. They have not done the right thing. And the Lord has sort of removed His protection from them. And they have been carried away into captivity in Babylon. So they are now, slaves and foreigners, and they're in a foreign country. But even Babylon doesn't last. Babylon has now been taken over, and it is the Persian Empire which now controls this entire region. So the Jews have found themselves in the middle of the Persian Empire, and they are seen as weirdos. They're seen as strange people with strange ideas and strange customs. They worship that one God, not a bunch of gods, but strangely, they just want this one. And they've got all these things that sort of set them apart, and they don't really mix with us the way that these other cultures do, and they're sort of apart, and they're just weird. These Jews are weird. And so this is where we find ourselves, that we are in the courts of the emperor of Persia, Ahasuerus, or as it's put here, Xerxes. I like saying Xerxes better. It's a lot easier, so we're just going to call him Xerxes. Fair enough? So, we are at the palace of King Xerxes, and there's a feast. It's a really long feast. It's really, really big, and it's lasting an entire week. And they get deep into this feast. Like, deep into this feast. And Xerxes has this bright idea. He's like, hey, where's my queen? Come here, baby. Come here and dance for the boys. And the queen, her name is Vashti, is like, no. And all the other guys around Xerxes are like, whoa, wait a second. Hey, Xerxes, hang on now. Do you realize she's not just disrespecting you, but our wives are going to hear about this. And the next time we tell them to do whatever we want, they might say, no, we can't have this. You better do something about that little lady of yours. You need to get rid of her. Send her away before that sort of uppity behavior and attitude spreads. And Xerxes is like, yeah, okay, and get rid of her. So off she goes to be banished? Banished? Don't really know, but she's out of the picture. Which means Xerxes has a job opening. He needs a new queen. So it's very easy to look at our contemporary culture and assume that we are kind of unique in our depravity and in our bad ideas. But before you assume that TV shows like The Bachelor are unique to us, this is exactly how the book of Esther begins. As basically an extended year-long series of The Bachelor. He calls in ladies from all over the empire to compete to find out who the next queen is going to be. Now, one of these ladies, her name is Esther. Esther is a Jew. Now, that's a secret. She's never told anyone because being a Jew is dangerous. Remember that the Jews within the empire are seen as weird and strange, and they're not like us, and we don't really trust them. So Esther, who has been raised by a kindly older cousin, his name is Mordecai. I always get very confused when we start talking about cousins and second cousin 3 times removed. I call him Uncle Mordecai. So can we do that? Uncle Mordecai. Uncle Mordecai is raising Esther. Her parents are dead, and he raises her as a Jew, but he says, shh, never tell anyone. Never tell anyone. It's too dangerous for us, so we're going to keep this to ourselves. But as she's entering this contest, she's doing fantastic. But it's a year-long contest, and it's, they've got beauty treatments and who is the most attractive and who's the most alluring and who's going to, convince the emperor to give her the rose, or it's actually a crown, but you get the idea. So at the end of the year, out of this competition for ladies all over the empire, who wins? Esther wins. She is presented the crown, and she is the queen. Now, good old Uncle Mordecai wants to keep an eye on the niece that he raised, and so he starts hanging out every day at the gates to the palace. And he's just sort of hanging out, doing nothing, and he overhears some guys plotting to assassinate and overthrow Xerxes. So, Mordecai tells Esther, Esther tells Xerxes, Xerxes tells the guards find these guys, and they do away with them, and Xerxes is saved. And Xerxes is like, who was that guy who discovered the plot and saved my life? Like, oh, it's the Jew Mordecai, and he's out by the gate. He's like, you know what, we should do something real nice for him. I really appreciate that. Write this down. Write this down. Mordecai the Jew shall squirrel, and Xerxes gets distracted and then forgets everything that's happened. We don't know what happens, but when you're the emperor of an empire, you kind of make your own rules. And so he just sort of stops whatever he's doing and does something else. And the other people are like, that's a great decision, emperor. It's fine by us. And they write it down, and they just sort of leave it alone. Well, there is another player in this particular drama who inserts himself. He is a very rich and wealthy nobleman, and his name is Haman. And Haman is a bad guy, but Haman has big bucks. And so Haman is basically paid away to get into the court of Xerxes as one of these nobles. He makes all these donations that keep getting his social ranking higher and higher and higher. And so Haman wants to be like the big cheese. He wants to be the big boss. He wants to be the number 2. And so he is trying to ingratiate himself to Xerxes and the rest of the court, and it's working. Xerxes, who enjoys people giving him money, is like, yeah, Haman, you're whatever. Do what you want. And so Haman decides, I'm the sort of guy who has earned so much respect. I am so high up in the hierarchy that when I go walking around, I need everyone to bow and to kneel. Because, yeah, I'm that awesome. And so he goes walking around, basking in the adulation of the people, except for who? The Jews, all of them, will not bow or kneel to Haman. Why not? Because they will bow and kneel to no one but God alone. Well, that is just unacceptable. that 99.9% of the people are bowing and paying homage to Haman, but 0.1% isn't doing it, and that's just going to blow my mind and I can't handle it. And he is so angry. He is so angry at these Jews, and especially that dirty Mordecai. Because he's right there at those dumb gates, and every time I walk out, I have to look at his stupid face, and he won't bow, and it's just a mess, and I hate him, and this is the worst. It's the worst. They won't deal with me. He's kind of a crazy person. So he is in the process of continuing to ingratiate himself to Emperor Xerxes, to keep paying money to have his social status improved, and Xerxes is like, yeah, I really appreciate that last donation. Anything I can do for you? And Haman says, well, you know, it's a small thing, but if we could kill all the Jews, that would just make my day. And Xerxes is like, I mean, I don't know, killing the Jews, that seems like a lot of work. And Haman says, no, you don't understand. See, these guys, they're all over the place. You don't notice this, but I'm out with the people, and I see them. And they are weirdos. They don't do what we do. They don't act like we act. They keep themselves apart from us, and they're dangerous. It's dangerous to have these weird, creepy foreigners infiltrating us wherever we think they might be. What if they decide to overthrow us? I think we ought to get rid of them. That would be the safest and most prudent thing to do. I tell you what, just sign this document. I'll take care of it for you. You don't even have to worry about it. I've got this covered. I've got your back. Sign this form. Thank you very much. We'll take care of those Jews. We're going to get rid of them all. Now, you should hear echoes here of the Exodus story, where the Jews who were foreigners in Egypt began to be so numerous that the Egyptians got worried. Pharaoh said, I don't like the idea of all these weird foreigners in my country, and what if they decide to overthrow us? So we better eliminate them. So Haman has this plan. So he takes a pour. It is it's kind of like dice. And he says, well, we need to pick a day to kill all the Jews, because if we fight them one by one, they might fight back. But if we kill them all the same day, problem is over. And that's great. So he rolls this dice, and the pour comes up with the 14th of Adar. It comes up with the date. He says, okay, well, that's our date. So he gets this decree all worked out. He gets Xerxes to sign it. I get the impression Xerxes signs stuff like this. And he takes it and passes it all around, and it begins to go throughout the empire, that on this date, all of the Jews will be killed. The Jews start panicking. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? What's going to happen? I mean, we can't stand against them, and this is just a few weeks away, and we're all going to die. Well, Mordecai then has the chance to talk to Esther. Esther, your only hope. You are in close with the king. You have to talk with him. You have to help us. You have to save us. And Esther's like, do you remember what happened to the last queen? This is really not a secure job position. He has a habit of, if people come to talk to him and he hasn't pointed at them, he kills them. You really think that I can go and tell him to save the Jews? You were the one who told me to never say I was a Jew. And Mordecai starts explaining it to her, and he says what I find to be one of the most profound statements in the Old Testament. He says, basically, they're going to find out one way or the other at some point that you're a Jew. You will not escape this fate. Okay? He says that God is going to save his people one way or another. It can either happen with you, or it can happen in spite of you. But maybe, just maybe, you have been made queen. You have been put in this position. You have been given this opportunity for just such a time as this. Okay, so you didn't pick it, and you wouldn't want to do this, and this seems, unfair or too difficult, but maybe, just maybe, you are in the position you are in right now, in this place, in this time, for just such a reason as this. And Esther says, You're right. Okay. All right, let me think. And so she comes up with a plan. And she invites Xerxes to a banquet. She's going to host this kind of lengthy banquet as he apparently likes. And she says, I would like you to please invite that servant of yours, Haman. I know he's very important, he's very prominent, but this will be very intimate, just me and you and your most trusted advisor. And so Xerxes is very happy for this, and he tells Haman, and Haman is over the moon. Haman goes home. Guess what? I got an invitation. It's going to be me and the king and the queen, and baby, that means I have names. I'm the man. I am the man, and it's all coming up Haman. He is so excited. He is so happy. He says, you know what? Let's build a giant spike in front of my house. Because the only thing that can make this day better is killing Mordecai by hanging him on a giant spike right in front of my house. How great would that be? Which is great if you are a psychopath, which apparently this guy is. So they start building this giant pole, this pipe, this spike right in front of his house, and Haman is just overjoyed. And he's going to get everything that he possibly wanted. He's going to go to this, intimate personal dinner with the king and the queen. He's going to be able to kill Mordecai and hang him in front of his house. All the Jews are going to be killed. I mean, this is great. So he goes to this feast. And is just, this is great. I have made it. All of my dreams are coming true. Well, before the day of the feast, Xerxes is having trouble sleeping. He's got insomnia. And so he's like, give me somebody read something really boring. Okay? I need to kind of go to sleep, and you've got a very boring voice. Read me something. And so they grab the Annals of the Kingdom. And they start reading, and it's like if you're really tired and you want to start looking over old church bulletins or something. They're reading, trying to put the king to sleep, and they get to the part where there's a coup attempt, and there's a threat on his life, but he is saved because of Mordecai. And all of a sudden, Xerxes kind of perks up. He's like, oh, wait a second, I remember that. That guy Mordecai, and he saved my life. Whatever happened to him? What great reward did I bestow upon him since he saved my life, and I'm very appreciative. And they're like, you kind of forgot, but, you're the king, and that's okay. He's like, oh, yeah, you know what, I'm going to fix that. So when they go to the first night of the banquet, and it's just him, and it's Esther, and it's Haman, and Xerxes is talking to Haman, like, Haman, you're a man of the people, correct? Oh, yes, I'm there all the time. Okay, now, let's say, Haman, I wanted to honor somebody very, very important. And Haman's like, yes. Well, what do you think would be really, really good? Like, if you wanted to honor someone, how could you do it in such a way where they would just really, really feel special? And Haman's like, oh, I don't know. I guess, that person would really, really like it if they had all these, fine, splendid clothes and rings and things, and then if they were driven through town with someone walking in front of them saying, this is the greatest guy in the world, this is the greatest guy in the world, and I think that I would really, this person would really appreciate that a lot. And Xerxes is like, yeah, that's a great idea. Do me a favor and set all that up. You do that for Mordecai, please. Haman's face, blood starts to drain out. What? So there he is the next day. Mordecai's behind him. He's in a carry around, and there's fine clothes and stuff, and Mordecai's kind of like, Haman, he's the greatest guy in the world. He's the greatest guy in the world. And all the while he's muttering under his breath about, ooh, that big spike in front of my house. Well, he goes for the next night of the feast, and Haman's ticked. But he's still hopeful. He just needs to get through the next few days, and that magic day where all the Jews are going to get killed is going to come up. So he's there at the feast, and it's gone really well. I mean, Esther really did a great job, and Xerxes is super happy. And he does one of those, thank you so much, my dearly beloved darling. This is the best ever. Anything I can do to show you my love, you are the light of my eyes, and you have done so much. I would give you anything in the world, up to half of my kingdom. You've done that before, too. Well, so Esther has now moved everything to this moment. And she says, well, actually, I do have one very small, really insignificant request. I even hate to bring it up to you, my beloved husband and royal imperial majesty, but if perhaps, possibly, perchance, you could see me not be murdered next week, that would be great. Just me. And he said, what? What? What are you talking about, murder? Oh, I'm sorry. There's this list of people who are Jews, and all of them are supposed to be murdered on the same day next week, and I'm a Jew, and I am supposed to be murdered because somebody thought it was a good idea to kill your queen and all of her people. What? What? And Xerxes is indignant. No! Who would dare harm a hair on my beloved wife's head? Who would do something so despicable, so dastardly? I will destroy this person. Bring them to me. And Esther, she could have said, well, actually, you signed it. Because you signed it. But she says, well, actually, it's him. What? And so, as the remaining color drains from Haman, and he has seen his fortunes completely and fully reversed from being on the very top of the heap to being on the very bottom, and now he knows that his life is forfeit. He was going to get everything he wanted. He was going to have all those dirty Jews killed. Mordecai was going to hang from a spike in his own front yard, and now the king is mad at him, and this is the king who kills people for being mad, and Haman freaks out. Now Xerxes, he's mad, but he needs to go yell at other people for a while. Right? He stomps off, and I'm going to yell, I'm going to just keep yelling at people. And Haman is desperate. He's like a caged animal, and he doesn't know what to do. So he throws himself at Esther. Please! Oh, my queen! Please! Help me, please! And that's exactly when Xerxes walks back in. And he sees the man who he's been told wants his wife dead. And now he's all over. And he doesn't waste a single second. Guard him now! And they yank him away. And one of the guys is like, actually, he has conveniently erected a giant pole in his own yard. So I'm just saying it would kind of... And Xerxes is like, great idea! And so Haman, and he's dead. Hoist on his own petard. Have you heard that phrase before? Meaning, you tried to blow up your enemy, but you wound up blowing yourself up with your own bomb. That is exactly what happens. The fate that he had decreed for Mordecai now becomes his own fate. He was here at the top, now he is at the bottom. The people of God have been delivered, and wicked Haman has met his just end. Well, Xerxes is still so upset. He says, I want a new decree. I want all the Jews everywhere to not only be safe and protected, but I want everyone to know that I honor these people. They are the people of my beloved wife, and no one shall harm them. As a matter of fact, if anyone tries to harm them, they are not only allowed to defend themselves, they're allowed to kill the person and take all their stuff. So say I. Send this out everywhere, and they do. And Mordecai, he writes this letter to go with it. And it basically says, the day of our doom has become the day of our triumph. The day that we were so afraid of has now become the day in which we must celebrate. The day that was randomly picked, the Hur, roll of the dice that said, this is the day that you will die, is now become the day of our victory. And from this day, for the end of time, we will celebrate this day, Purim, with a celebration of joy and feasting and caring for the poor and laughing at the Haman story and remembering that God did what we could not do. And He took us from the very bottom and He raised us to the top. And people were at the very top. He lowered them to the very bottom. And the day of our doom and death and destruction became the day of our victory, of our salvation, and of our joy. The courage of Esther, the faithfulness of Mordecai. Jews to this day celebrate Purim every year. To kind of put a fine point on things, Esther did not ask to be where she was, or to be given the job that she was given to do. It was dangerous and it was risky. You could say, I didn't sign up for this, I didn't want it. I didn't want this to happen to me. Why did it have to happen at this time? It's not fair, it's not right, I didn't ask for it. Why do I have to be the one? The courage of Esther comes from that understanding that Mordecai gives her. Well, what if you have been brought to this place for just such a moment as this? And we can look at our lives and say, why us and why me? Why did it have to happen in this way? Or why do I have to be given the burden right here and right now? Again, that very fine point. Blending and binding churches is hard. And it's tricky and confusing and difficult, and it can be sad and frustrating. We can feel angry or sad. We can feel anxiety, fear. Why us? Why now? It's not fair. Why did this have to happen? And why did it have to happen to me? Why are we here now? And maybe, just maybe, it is for a time just such as this. With the things in our life, good, bad, and indifferent, we can rage against them. We can despair about them. We can say, woe is me and why us? But maybe, just maybe, each of these moments, good, bad, and indifferent, have brought you to this place at this time, and this is precisely where the Lord wants you to be, and you could have come in no other fashion. Perhaps it is for just as a time such as this that all of this has happened to bring you here and now. And we can say, but I didn't sign up for it. I would have asked for it. Why me and why us? It is the courage of Esther. It is the faithfulness of Mordecai. It can be our courage and our faithfulness too. To say whether it's easy or hard, whether I like it or I don't, whether it's risky or safe, whether I'm filled with joy, or whether I am scared out of my pants. Yes, Lord, you have called me to this time and to this place, and I will follow you wherever you want me to go. We're going to have a baptism in just a minute. And if there's ever a time of great mystery and the unknown, it is to say yes to Jesus and to receive Him, body and spirit. And there have been some things that led you to this place that I wish had never happened. And they weren't fair. And they weren't right. But we have no control over that, over what's happened to us or brought us to this point. But what we can do is the decision we make with the time and the opportunity given. And your decision has been to say yes. And this is where everything changes. No longer tied to the pain or the loss of the past. New hope, new birth, and new life. Regardless of what brought us here. The courage of Esther, the faithfulness of Mordecai, and we say together, yes, Lord.